So I work with demons every day, and I talk to demons every day. It is my faith and my belief system as a sorcerer to be constantly enmeshed in the spirit world with demons, to bring these demons to me in my life, to feel their energy around me, to be with them every day. This is my religion or belief system as a wizard or sorcerer or witch. Any of these labels is fine. Um, and sometimes I feel frustrated because who these gods are to me, what they represent, and who they are in my life, I know is not going to be the same as who they are to other people. A very easy example of this is that as a theistic Satanist who sees these beings as divine gods, who sees these beings as different facets of Satan or as different Satans, plural, that in many monotheistic religions, the idea of Satan is just some kind of evil entity, is how it's taught, despite the fact that that's not even what a lot of their texts say on it, but what people in power teach about Satan and what organizations like churches teach about Satan is just some fucking nonsense, painting them as evil for the sake of being evil, essentially a cartoon villain. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't actually have any depth or substance or reasoning behind it. Whereas, as a theistic Satanist, obviously I'm going to have a different interpretation and a different relationship with Satan in my life than something very overly simplistic and binary like that, than some sort of binary dualism between good and evil, painting demons and Satan as just evil. That's not what I believe as a sorcerer. But also, one of the things I struggle with is that I want to emphasize, just because I can work with demons and communicate with demons and hear demons and see demons and work with demons in my life, this does not make me special. This does not make me any more special than any other person out there. This does not make me some fucking grand authority on demons. It does not make me any more legitimate than any other occultist or any other witch out there. And I think it's important to remain humble, and it's important to say that just because I'm married spiritually to 3 demon kings, and just because I work with demons in my life, and just because they've taught me witchcraft and sorcery that I use every day, does not make me more special or more valuable as a person than other people. And the reason that I'm saying this is because I think there's this very easy ego trap that a lot of occultists fall for and a lot of occultists fall into, where they act like just because they have these magical powers, or because they've learned to control their mind, or because they are doing like witchcraft and going on spiritual adventures with such and such god, that this somehow makes them more legitimate or more special or a higher person than other people around them. And I really think that this is a trap. I think that it very easily becomes a sort of spiritual narcissism. I think it very easily becomes a way of creating a hierarchy and false dualism and false binary, and creating just more ways to separate people. And I'm not trying to do that anymore. I'm not at a place anymore where I feel a need to put myself on some fucking pedestal and say that, oh, I'm this high and mighty sorcerer because I have these gods who are helping me in my life. Like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't like that. And honestly, it actually physically repulses me and disgusts me when I see sorcerers and wizards out there doing that. When I see some wizards out here who, or even, maybe they're not wizards. Maybe they're just people studying this stuff, right? Maybe they're not even summoning these things, but they're just studying it. And they act like because they've read such and such book, that makes them the grand authority on such and such spirit or demon. Or people who act like, well, in my vision, it was this way. So if they didn't appear to you that way, then you didn't really have an experience of them. Shit like that. Or people who have a polar opposite belief system than mine, who are not using the power of their demons to empower themselves in their life and to be more empathetic, grounded, whole, and happy people, but who are instead using that power to further create division, to further sow discord, to further create totalitarianism and hierarchy and might makes right mentality, and essentially reinforce capitalism, fascism, and colonialism, racism and homophobia and every other ism and obia and sexism. People who are witches, who are using the power of their mind to further reinforce their biases and their ignorance and their bigotedness. This is something I don't want anything to do with. And the reality is there's going to be people in any belief system or lack thereof who are going to be using the symbols or the characters or whatever it is for evil. In any belief system or lack thereof, these people exist. And for me, it was really painful, frankly, realizing, accepting, and growing aware of the fact that the occult is by no means exempt from this. Theistic Satanism is by no means exempt from this. Sorcery is by no means exempt from this. There is going to be people who are claiming to have a relationship with Satan and then using that relationship to cause harm to people. Unfortunately, as much as I don't like that and I don't agree with that, there are going to be people who are going to be using the names of Samael, Lilith, Lucifer, Leviathan, whoever else, Bezaliel, Baphomet. They're going to be using these figures as an excuse to promote fascism, as an excuse to promote totalitarianism, as an excuse to promote might makes right mentality. When I think I would want to hope, at least, obviously there's no real way of there's been no polls and a way to test this, but I would like to hope, I would like to imagine that most theistic Satanists are not fucking doing that. That these few people that are like that are not representative of the whole, that are not representative of what all of us are like. It's certainly not what I'm like. It's certainly not what I promote. And I think that for me, if anything, it's the complete and utter opposite. For me, what I feel I've been taught by these demons through my shadow work with them is the opposite, is integrating of the darker parts of humanity and society rather than running from it and rather than using it as a tool, weaponizing it to sow discord, chaos, and fascism and further reinforce totalitarianism. If anything, it is the complete opposite for me. My relationship with my demons, my sorcery helps me to survive and live and fight spiritually despite the current state of the world, despite the hardships of my past, despite the discord and the chaos and the pain and the suffering of the world. For me, my demons have empowered me to be strong despite that, and to love and live despite that, and to find peace within myself despite that. And so it's very, very painful for me when I see people out here who are using the names of demons of the Ars Goetia, or who are using the names of Samael, Lilith, and whoever else, and are using their names to promote harm and to promote hostility and to promote really might makes right ideology. And I think that it's something that there's different levels to this, and it's very easily, especially when you're doing more left-hand path, trying to embrace cultural taboos to become a god, trying to do shadow work to become a god with the goal of becoming a god. Like, obviously in that there's going to be people who are narcissists. Obviously, inherently in something that is teaching people that they can become a god, there's going to be people using that for harm. There's going to be people who use that to do bad shit. And I also want to say, I'm not talking about baneful magic. I'm not talking about baneful magic I'm not talking about hexes. That is a whole separate other topic from this video. If you want me to do a video on my stance on that, I can. Personally, I'm for it, and I can talk about why, but that's not the topic of this video. I just think it's like, it's very upsetting to me. It causes actually a visceral, disgust response in me when I see people who are essentially taking the opposite of what these things really are to me and are using them in a way where they're weaponizing them to create further division among people. Whereas for me, this magic, this path has taught me love, has taught me life, has taught me self-acceptance through embracing, facing, and integrating the harshness of existence that is embodied by these various different demonic gods. And I, instead of rejecting or fighting or outcasting these parts of the universe, I have learned to truly, genuinely, and sincerely love them. And my approach to working with demons is literally to love them as my equal, and in many cases, to love them as a lover, to love them as my family. And this is how I've balanced out and done my self-alchemy and done my shadow work, is I face these demonic gods, I face whatever they represent honestly, authentically, and I acknowledge the good and bad within these parts of the universe and psychology and myself, and I love them. And I don't reject any of it. I take all of it and integrate all of it as much as possible over time continuously. And I know that this is going to be different for different people, but my approach largely relies on love and largely relies on empathy and largely relies on acknowledging these beings as my equals, as my friends, as my family, as my lovers, and in some cases even husbands. And it's just, to me, the idea that people could be using the names of the same beings to just blindly reinforce the same suffering of every other bad part of every other belief system is like, then why even do this? If that's all you're in this for, is just to make other people miserable or whatever, or to make yourself out to be this greater than everyone else person, then you might as well just join Christianity at that point. At that point, you might as well just join any other religion, any other belief system that's more popular, because you can do that same shit in them and far easier.